Hi, my name is Lily Clayton Hansen. I'm an author, a journalist, an actor, and a host based in Nashville, Tennessee. And this is Nashville Conversations, the video podcast based on my best-selling book series. Today, I couldn't be more excited to be here with Americana and country music artist Denitia, who literally just goes by one name, creator of the wonderful album Sunset Drive, which came out last year and has also been voted one of CMT's artists to watch. She's also a member of the Black Opry and has created quite the splash in Nashville since returning here in the last couple of years after going to college here at Vanderbilt University. Stay tuned. Could not be more excited to have her on. And I'm telling you, you will be blown away by just not only her words of wisdom, but her demeanor and her energy. Thank you so much, Denitia, for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, I know we kind of chatted about this casually before the camera started rolling, but
Sure.
I would love to talk about your name because it is so rare that you meet someone that just goes by one name. And I just think it's so cool, maybe because I'm like a huge lifelong Madonna fan. So, so when did you decide to drop your last name and just simplify your public persona?
I think some years back, I decided to simplify just to focus on pronouncing one name as opposed to pronouncing two different names. And I thought, the spelling of my name as the way that my mom gave me the name is unique enough that I thought Denitia would stand on its own.
So you grew up in Houston, Texas, which is ironically a city that I am fascinated by because I feel like every time I travel, people are like, Houston, you have to go visit it. Cool cultural mecca. Love to know a little bit about your upbringing there. And again, if you had any professional artists in your life who maybe mentored you or served as sort of a role model for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in a couple of small refinery towns on the outskirts of Houston. So we lived in Dayton, Texas for a little while. We lived in Baytown for a little while. And that's where I graduated high school. So I'm not exactly from Houston, although I was born there. The places where I grew up and spent my formative years were a little bit outside of the city. Mm-hmm. So when I was little, I was listening to a lot of Christian music and I was listening to a lot of country music. And I fell in love with songwriting via the country radio. So it was 80s and 90s country and kind of that time where country kind of went very popular and it was like super widespread, but we were really steeped in country music and my friends all listened to country music, my parents and I, my family and I. And that's what really made me fall in love with the craft of songs. Yeah,
because I think I read somewhere that you were like, even wearing like cowboy boots and like just like into like the whole like, look and sort of like ethos of the culture, even as like a young know, girl.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Did you know anyone that was like a professional musician when you were growing up, or were all the people that you looked up to people that you just listened to on the radio?
Well, my great uncle was a guitar player. He lived in Louisiana, so I didn't see him very much. I just sort of had this knowledge that he played guitar and he had like a kind of a studio set up in the back of his house and like he played with different Zydeco bands around the area.
Cool.
So in terms of somebody that I was related to that was playing music, that was kind of my only person that was in my familial orbit. Mm-hmm. But mostly I was also looking up to artists that I was hearing on the radio, Reba McEntire, George Strait, Vince Gill, Trisha Yearwood, mm-hmm. Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline, and all of the iconic artists that I was exposed to from the radio.
Today's episode is sponsored by Freeman Webb, a trusted leader in multifamily and commercial property management. From stylish apartments to smart commercial spaces, they manage it all with care and compassion. Driven by a daily mission to provide exceptional service and build meaningful connections with everyone they encounter. Discover your next home or workspace at www.freemanwebb.com. Do you remember like one of the first songs you heard where you were like, wow, like this is like the genre that I resonate the most with? Like I feel like that about like I'm a punk rock girl. I've got the Ramones like sitting in the corner and like the Dead Kennedys and stuff at Flowers and like that was my jam. So yeah. And as like a song or an artist that maybe again like strikes you as like being very formative in terms of your love for country music?
Yes. I can recall being probably around 6 to 8 years old, and I had a best friend that lived in the neighborhood over from me. He was obsessed with Reba. So I became obsessed with Reba.
Mm-hmm.
And he had posters of her in his room, and we would listen to her music super loud and sing along. And I guess at this very moment, because I think the answer to this question might change depending on when you ask me and what part of my memory I'm accessing.
Mm-hmm.
But at this very moment, I can remember us absolutely blasting a record of Reba McEntire, You Lie, which is a power ballad. It's a torch song. It has so much emotion, and she's absolutely displaying her vocal prowess with this like beautiful emotional lyric. And for some reason that really resonated with us and really stuck with me.
I love that. Well, let's talk about growing up in the church because it's really interesting. I began my career in music journalism, so I've interviewed hundreds of artists at this point, and you hear so many stories about people that grew up in the church and they resent it, they loathe it, they have nothing good to say about it. You, on the other hand, everything I've read about it was very much the opposite, very inspirational. You talked about how it really, again, brought this spiritual tone, not just to your performance skills and abilities, but also to the way you approach songwriting. So I would just love to know a little bit about it. And again, why you have, again, this such a positive perception of it.
Right. Well, I think I really believe in the way that I frame my personal experience. I'm going to attract more of whatever I'm resonating with. So the way that I look back on my experience in the church is that I see so much value, one, in the community that I had. I went to a Christian school that also had a church in the same building. So I would go to that church with my friends. So we had this kind of seamless, small town, small village, I'll say, kind of community built within our school and our church. Mm-hmm. And within that community, I learned how to play guitar. I was teaching myself at home how to play guitar. I was looking up the chords to my favorite songs. Mm-hmm. So I was in one room in our double wide trailer out in Dayton and studying and figuring out how to play guitar. And then my first opportunities to play guitar in front of people were leading the praise and worship at my Christian school during chapel day on Wednesday. And I look at that and I can see a very clear bridge from what I got from that to what I value about music now, which is coming together in a room and we're singing songs and we're having an experience that's more than me. It's more than you. It's more than all of us. It's about connection, community, and having an experience that transcends where we're all from, what we did that day, where we're coming from and where we're going. And it creates a moment that creates presence and connection. And those are the things that I really value about my time growing up in the church.
I think that's so cool because it seems like, and I could be wrong and we can chat about this. I would be curious to know your answer, but it seems like that you have always had that through line throughout your life. Like you haven't lost that. Like a lot of people go through their artistic careers and they lose sense of who they are, or maybe they lose direction at a certain point or their purpose. And it seems like you somehow managed to hang on to the one through line that was instilled in you as a young child. Is that like true of your experience?
I think there's always the possibility of losing one's way, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've had such a varied and interesting journey through my music career that at times I've held on closer to that notion than other times. And right now it feels very at the forefront of my intention.
How did you, I guess, if you ever lost your way, find your way back? Like, can you recall an experience where you maybe, again, were feeling like you were either floundering or maybe you were a little bit misdirected and found your way back to that one thing, which sounds like it's spirituality and community that really grounds you?
Right. I think that it's the literal physical act of singing that grounds me, of making music, the discovery of the process of writing a song, being open to the song, having a guitar in my hand is a big part of what brings me home. And just the physicality of like singing is it's a physical activity that I think like I really need to experience in order to feel like myself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in the business of music, there are a lot of things that can distract an artist from their craft. What have you with the industry or being on the computer and trying to do emails and doing social media, which is all necessary and good. But the thing that brings me back home is the music itself and the songs.
Yeah, I love that. Do you remember the first time that because I know, again, a lot of what I've read about you prior to meeting you, you always seem to call yourself a songwriter first and foremost, which I love. Do you remember the first song you wrote where you thought, oh, wow, I could really see myself doing this as a job?
Well, I started really becoming more of a prolific songwriter when I was in college, when I first came to Nashville to go to Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing open mics as a freshman in college and playing clubs, and different clubs around town were giving me a chance and taking a chance on me. And I'll always be grateful to them for that. But I think it's been, years of trying to figure out what I want to say and how I want to say it. I think that in 2020, when I started writing the song All the Sweet Tea, was when I felt like I really brought a lot of different threads of my influences and my experience together to really channel something that felt like it was breaking through just with me.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, was it like thematically, or was it like the way the song like was structured musically, or what was it about that song?
Something about the magic of that chorus just felt like, oh my God, I'm finally doing it.
Very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, I would just be curious to touch on your time in New York, because, it sounds like you had kind of a similar experience that I've had where like you lived in, I don't think you lived in a full-blown building full of hundreds of artists. And it sounds like you lived in like a house that was, sort of almost like a commune kind of setting of like artists. So I'd love to know just a little bit about, again, what incentivized the move from Nashville to New York, and what it was like being a part of this, artist collective group of people, and, maybe a little of how that informed you as a young artist.
Totally. So when I was about 14, I think, I went to summer school up in Cornell, and I was there for like a month or so up in Ithaca, New York. My mom and my grandmother came to pick me up from Ithaca, and we went to the city after I was done with my program. That was my first time being in New York City. And it was just a gorgeous symphony of chaos. And I felt at home. Mm-hmm. I was a kid. And I was like, now this place is amazing. Being from where I'm from, my mom was always invested in exposing me to the world and sending me to camps and to college programs like that. And so I did get these little tastes of what other parts of life could be like, what other lifestyles could be like. So I always held on to that. I was like, man, New York is cool. I got hip to the music that has come out of New York over decades and decades. And I was living in Nashville after I graduated from Vandy. And I was making music and doing DIY records and playing in clubs and really just like building my foundation as an artist. And I started to feel like I was outgrowing what I had built here. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like I should make a move. So I had made a bunch of friends in New York. I put myself out there to do a music residency in the Lower East Side. So there was a small club that took a chance on me, and I did like a weekly residency. So I spent the summer there and stayed with a friend, and I really just fell in love with the city. So one summer, I was on tour with a bunch of songwriters, and I saw that the last stop was in New York City. And I said, just drop me off.
Wow.
When we get to the end of this tour, just leave me. I have arranged my situation to where I can just live in New York. And so it was the best thing I could have ever done. I love that city. I think about it a lot. I have a really special relationship with it. And when I got there, through people that I met in Nashville, through people that I had met in the city, I started to just meet a lot of really unbelievable artists and musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Moved to Brooklyn, and I lived in this house affectionately named the Clubhouse in Ditmas Park, Brooklyn. And that's when I really feel like I started to form my identity as Denitia, the independent artist that I am now.
What was it about the people you were around or the environment, or do you think it was being in this like sort of confluence of, obviously New York is like so, diverse in every single way. What was it about that environment that again really brought out like your essence?
I think it was being immersed in an environment with lots of other artists. We lived together. We worked together. We were around each other. And also they had a studio set up in the house. And so I would get up before my coffee shop gig that I would take the train into the city for. I would get up at 5 a.m. and I'd be in there recording myself. They taught me how to record myself. Mm-hmm. So it really eliminated the barrier between me and recording. Whereas before I felt like I had to go to people to figure out how to record me. But when I was living in that house and I was in that community, I really started to understand how to produce myself. And that really informed my lens in my relationships with producers now.
Is that advice you would give to other artists? I would always say that to, other writers, or even now that I've gotten into filmmaking, it's make it easy on yourself, whatever you can do to make it accessible, where you don't have to I feel like you have to overcome all these hurdles in order to create. Would you say that was, again, advice you would give to other artists?
I guess my advice along those lines would be to express as much of your vision as you possibly can. And then you can bring other people along.
So we were talking about setting up almost like a creative kind of routine or practice, and I know, again, you've talked a lot about discipline. I would completely and totally agree. I would always, again, if I would speak to say classes at Vanderbilt about writing, I would say, even if you journal 3 pages in the morning, just keep yourself in that practice. So right. Since you are a prolific songwriter, I would love to know a little bit about your own practice. What do you do, not just, again, on a technical level to keep yourself in the writing zone, but on an emotional and spiritual level to keep yourself in that place of vulnerability?
Yeah, absolutely. So with everything, I'm not perfect with my process, but no, I know. Big news, right?
She'd become my new guru, actually.
So when I'm really at my best and I'm optimizing, I'm getting up, I'm doing 3 pages of journaling in the morning, like Julia Cameron taught us in The Artist's Way.
Totally. Right behind you on my book.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
yes.
Cool. Which is a book I've had for so long and I've never finished. But it still serves me.
It's a great one. And it seems to be the one that everybody sticks with. Even if you don't do all the other exercises, because it can be a tad overwhelming. People are they get addicted to the morning pages.
It's great. So I do that I find that having that journaling, I don't know how you feel about it, but it stirs up my inner voice, which is the only voice that's the voice I'm depending on to create and for output. So it really ignites this relationship with my inner voice. So when I'm at my best, I'm journaling in the morning and I'm carving out time to pick up my guitar and play, to get some words on the page, find myself either in songs that influence me or songs that I'm working on. So carving out time on the daily to just spend with my craft and with my music and with my words is the best way to kind of keep my flow going.
Did you ever struggle with, I always think songwriting is so, any writing really, I mean, honestly, if it's, especially if it's related to your own life, is so personal. And I do know you incorporate other people's stories into your work as well. But did you ever struggle with being vulnerable in your songwriting, or did that always feel very natural to you?
Really great question, I think. I've had varying relationships with vulnerability in songwriting. Me being vulnerable in my songs is the best way to connect, to like really share my story, my perspective. And the new music that I'm working on, I'm really digging into that even more, like stories about people I know, stories about my life, observed lives, and really just remembering that some of the music that's touched me the most has been extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, I love that. It's like your purpose. Yeah, or your North Star. Well, I would love to, I feel like that's a great segue to my next question.
Okay.
So I have this theory, and it's been one that I have proven true in my own life, but also I feel like I've read about it a lot. I feel like I want to write a book about it, honestly. So maybe that's me having an epiphany right now. But it's if you are in a state of confusion, go back to whatever moved you as a child. And I feel like that was advice that I got sort of at a time when I was at a point of like crisis in my own life. And anyway, that was actually when I got back into acting, which was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So you had this major transition from creating the music that you were making in New York to going back to your roots as a country artist, and you've had a lot of success since then. And so I would just love to know how you feel about that. Like, you know, again, what was it about going back to something that moved you so much as a child that you think has catalyzed this whole new phase of your career?
Right. So,
because it's so cool and inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So, over my time in New York, I had been working on and off with a very good friend of mine named Brad Allen Williams. And we would get together and write songs. And he and I had this shared thing where he also grew up around 80s and 90s country. So that was kind of rare in the circles that I was in New York. So we'd be writing songs together, and I'd be writing something and he'd be like, that's kind of country. And I'm like, I know, like, this is like, I can't help it. And so we would kind of geek out on country records from back in the day together. And I remember distinctly being in his home and saying, man, one day I'm going to make a country record and I'm just going to just blow everybody away. Like, I'm going to do something so random and make a country record. So I'd always had this notion that it would be like, oh, so wild for me to do this, right? But all the while, my mom is in the background saying to me for years, like, country music is kind of your thing. Maybe you should be doing that.
Interesting.
And I was like, well, I've got like all this momentum with what I'm doing, so I'm going to stick to that. 2020 rolls around. I'm in Brooklyn. It's the quarantine. And life as we know it has come to a screeching halt. So plans that I had for touring, I had just released an album that was experimental and electronic indie pop. All of these plans come to a halt, and it just felt like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. That state of being put me in a place where, one, I was reaching for a place that felt like home. I was reaching for music that felt like it grounded me, something that felt like truly myself. And I just started to re-immerse myself in the classic country that I grew up on. And the other thing that state of being did for me was, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to start. I just want to write some country music. It's coming out of me. I'm in here with my guitar and my notebook and I'm writing these songs. So I called Brad. I said, Brad, what are you doing? He was down the street in his own place with his wife. And we just struck up this conversation sort of like across neighborhoods in Brooklyn, you know, but we never saw each other. We struck up this conversation and I said, some of these songs we wrote together are country, don't you think? Like, let's make country versions of them. And he started to track these instruments in his apartment. He sent me the first song and I was like, holy crap, this is the best thing I've ever heard. This is the best thing I've ever been around. Let's keep going. And we ended up writing and working on my first Americana album called Highways that I eventually put out independently in 2022.
That is so cool. I love that because I feel like that is something that a lot of artists, myself included, if you become really, either good at something or, you really become entrenched in, say, like a genre or a style of creating, you just kind of think like, well, I'm going to stick with this. But I mean, to totally pivot and rebrand. And you see a lot of artists doing it now. I mean, look at even like Beyonce with like her country album, but I think it's this newer sort of evolution as far as artists being praised for pivoting rather than even when the Beatles did it, it's like they got criticized. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's so. Did it come naturally to you? I guess to again have the bravery to do that. To say, I mean, I have nothing to lose.
Right. I think that at that moment, like a lot of pivotal moments in my life, I really just was following my North Star. And I kind of intentionally refused to think about how people would respond because I was loving what I was doing so much. And I think that's, the key to like putting out or to like making great work is like I, as the artist, have to like be in love with my work. And so I just kind of let that lead the way and took it from there.
That's so cool. Well, let's talk about Nashville. So, I mean, you've had such an interesting journey where, I mean, you've literally come full circle from going to college here at Vanderbilt or Vandy, as everyone calls it, to, having this time that was obviously very formative in New York and then, relocating back to Nashville. So, what incentivized the move, back here? And what has it been like, again, being able to play the Opry or being named one of CMT's, artists to watch.
Sure.
It's just a really amazing thing that you return to the place where like you kind of got started and you've had all this like really interesting, unique success in the last few years.
Absolutely. I had made this record, Highways, and I had made this pivot from the artist that I was into sort of this new world. And I moved out of Brooklyn and I lived upstate for a couple of years. And I started to really miss having an artist community and being around music. And I thought to myself, well, I don't think that my artist community right now is in Brooklyn because the world that I had established was like a different world. So I started to feel this call. I started to hear like responses from people in Nashville. I started to feel this pull. And also because this place is familiar to me because I also, partially grew up here, having gone to college at a young age. And it felt like, okay, this could be a great place for me to embark on next. And Nashville had changed so much over the last so many years that I had been gone that it made sense to like follow my connection to the collective of Black Opry, which a lot of artists that are involved with that are based here. And then, to follow some musical connections that I had made in the past. It just made sense. And so I moved here about 2.5 years ago. And the first few months of living here, I was fortunate enough to link up with the M Theory Equal Access Program, which is co-sponsored by CMT. And that provided a lot of support and a lot of momentum for my career, sort of like jumping on the momentum of my independently released record Highways and taking me into the release of Sunset Drive that I put out in the fall. And so as a result of those connections that I was making and the opportunities that I had to be in front of people, I had the pleasure of making my debut at the Grand Ole Opry, like you mentioned, and CMT named me one of the next women of country last year. And it's just been really great to not only have the cachet of those looks and that support, which is extremely important, but also to be around artists and be exposed to artists that are like-minded and ambitious and are making really great music.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to know a little bit about the Black Opry because
Sure.
to be truthful, I had heard about it. I didn't quite know, what it meant or what the significance was before, again, hearing that you were involved with it. So what is it exactly for those of us that maybe are unfamiliar? And what does it feel like to be selected as sort of like a ambassador for, this wonderful collective?
So the Black Opera is a really great, organically sort of growing collective of Black artists in Americana, country, bluegrass, folk, and roots music in general.
Mm.
It was started by Holly G and is run now by Holly G and Tanner Davenport. And it's really focused, the way that it started was really focused on as a touring act. So they would put out 4 or 5 songwriters on the road to go do a bunch of writers' rounds in different cities. So we would do shows at theaters and festivals. And I got linked up with the Black Opry, in the fall after Highways came out. They reached out and they asked me to come do some touring with them. And that's when I met my friends Julie Williams and Roberta Lee, who are good friends to me to this day, who are Black artists in country. And they're just also really great people. And my connection to that is that I've toured a lot with the Black Opry. Some of, we've made really great connections. And when we get together, we joke that it feels like it's like cousins, like getting together, even when we haven't met each other yet. There's a kindredness to our spirits and to the music that we love and why we're even making music. So it's been a really special experience to be around that. And it's part of what encouraged me to move to Nashville.
Wonderful. Well, I know, we had spoken about this on the phone. I always do phone calls with my subjects before, especially if I haven't met them before, because I like to establish a little bit of a rapport and also talk about stuff, quite frankly, that you're interested in speaking about. Right. So I feel like one thing that came up that was interesting was this tension, perhaps, between waving the flag for being, a Black woman in country music and then also just being yourself. And so I would just love to know a little bit about, again, if race or ethnicity was ever a thing before you got into country music and how you have found that balance between the two.
Right. I mean, my ethnicity, my culture, is always a part of me. It's impossible to divorce me from my cultural identity, and I would never want to. So everything that I do is through the lens of the way that I was raised and my ethnicity and the way that I move through the world. So I think that I think it's been really interesting for me personally to learn more about the involvement of Black folks in the creation of country music and in the Black folks that have been involved in country music ever since its inception. Mm-hmm. And I feel really proud to be a part of that canon.
There's like no more interesting time, I feel like, for people that like don't fit like the traditional, like, Caucasian model of country music to, make an entrance right now. I mean, do you feel like that? Or do you feel like there's still a lot of like barriers, I guess, to the genre?
I feel that there are probably a lot of barriers, perhaps I wouldn't even say perhaps. It seems that there's evidence pointing towards barriers to the commercial genre, but I think there are a lot of independent artists and artists that are continuing to thrive of many different ethnicities and gender orientations and different backgrounds in country and folk music.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to speak a little bit about, the significance of songwriting, because I know when you've spoken about it in the past, I really love the way you framed it, which is, again, it's this way of building bridges. It's a way of having, conversations around universal experiences or emotions, especially in this world that can feel very divisive. And so I guess just in the context of this chaotic crazy world we live in, which is also very beautiful. And I feel like even your Instagram posts remind me just to like focus on like the daily beauty in the world. But how do you feel like music can be a unifying force in today's world?
I think that music has a really special place in culture and in our human lives. Humans have made music for as long as we know humans have been around, with sound, with our bodies, using external things to make sound. And I think it's really integral to like a great quality of human life. So I think in our modern world, we need music in order to bring us together, to connect us. Nothing really connects a room of people like a song that everybody knows, or a song that everybody loves, or hasn't heard in a long time, or a song where the lyrics really, really touch you or make you see things in a different way. And I think that music is a really important part of community and human connection. The world is always chaotic, depending on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that this very moment is much different, depending on who you are. So I think it's always important to really cling to like connection and to really see the humanity in each other. And I think music really does a good job of doing that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to, it was one of my last questions, talk about your wonderful social media series. So we were chatting about this a little bit before the interview, but I personally, even though I help other people with their social media, I struggle with it. And so I was thinking about your series, Tea with D, which is basically where you just kind of shoot the breeze with your audience and, respond to questions that I guess they DM you or however they get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And do it over a very chill cup of tea. It's very like low key, laid back way, but you are so zen during it. And you always have like this very strong sort of theme where you're talking about just like enjoying life and just like the beauty of the world. And so I guess I would just love to know how you came up with that series and why it's important for you to, again, put those messages out there. They have helped me, honestly.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So thank you. Like
that.
I found that like once I like did a deep dive into you, I was like, oh, I want to listen to like all of these, like whatever she has, like I want right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I really feel like it's a conversation, and the way that idea kind of came to the forefront is there were some folks kind of helping me with social media because it can be challenging, or it has been challenging to me in the past, I'll say, to find a way to take what's happening in my physical world and to like translate that into digital media, into these like short clips, into the social media world. And so we were doing some brainstorming, and, I'm always drinking tea. I love tea. It's the thing I would look forward to in the morning. And I have one in the afternoon just to kind of reset before the evening. And somebody said like, why don't you like make tea or drink tea or something? And this idea kind of evolved over the last couple of years to just like, I'll have a standing appointment where I just have tea and I just like carve out space to just reflect. So because I'm not playing a song, I'm not promoting anything, I'm not selling anything, and I'm not trying to like, I don't know, perform. I find myself in this space of where I'm like, well, who am I outside of all that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting here as a person who's trying to be at peace. And so that's why it comes out like that, because there are no other agendas except for like, I want to connect with my audience. I want to connect with people that follow me online. And I think there's some real value in like taking a pause in this busy world. I think our lives can seem very busy as we like deal with the first humans who have been exposed to this much information, endless amounts of information and news, that I need to take a break sometimes. And I really value the moment to take a break with people that follow me or discover me online.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, as someone that's lived overseas in Europe several times myself, it reminded me of. I actually was reading a book last night about a woman that, similar to myself, lived in France for a while when she was younger, and how much it influenced her. But this lack of guilt around taking a reprieve or a respite
That's cool.
in the afternoon. It even reminded me recently when I was in Savannah, which is a city I just absolutely adore, and my mom and I were walking around in the afternoon and we're like, why don't we just sit and we have coffee.
Yeah.
You're a tea drinker, I'm a coffee girl.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm hyped.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like, why don't we sit and have our coffee and have our girl time and like chill on the bench for like 45 minutes and just talk. And I thought, why does it have to be vacation? Like, why can this not be a normal thing?
Sure.
You know, so I just love that we get some like insight into I mean, I guess how you deal with like the chaos of the world.
Yeah, that's it. And, you know, I really love the green spaces that we have around Nashville. So me taking a walk is a big deal. Like, I try to take my walks. I try to be in the trees, try to put my feet on the ground, because I'll be clear that like, I'm also a human living in this world too. Like, there's a lot going on. I'm an independent artist, you know, and I've been that way for a long time, constantly adapting to the new ways of doing things. And I'm also trying to focus on my craft and focusing on the music and the songs. So I find my hands full of spinning plates at times. And I do have to remind myself that it's okay to like slow down, take a break and reset, and then get back after it.
Do you have any sort of words of wisdom about how to constantly adapt when things are always changing, particularly in the arts? I know that is a conversation I have often with people where it's like, whether like, oh my God, now I have to learn a new social media platform. Or now, you know, like AI is taking away the job of writers because now everybody can just like chat GPT everything, or it just is exhausting. It almost feels like it's hard to like, you know, once you master one thing, then things change again.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Not to sound like I've got it all figured out, but
you're my new Yoda, by the way. She's my new Yoda. I knew it. I had an intuitive feeling about this. I was like, forget all the Dalai Lama stuff that I've read. I was like, I'm going with T.
There you go. That's so funny. But truly, not to sound like I haven't figured out, but something that I do pursue is acceptance. There's always going to be something different that we're faced with.
Mm-hmm.
And once I just accepted that social media is a really beautiful tool for connection, and that it doesn't have to haunt my dreams because it's stressing me out. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. Let me just focus on what I do know how to do. Get somebody to help me. I've got people helping me with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then just accept that this is happening. This is a part of the toolbox now. Let me just learn it and figure it out. And then I think in terms of like AI and chat GPT and, you know, all these new tools that are coming out, I think it's really just about focusing on what is in our control and focusing on the value of the human touch. I don't think that can be overstated. I think that we as consumers, as art lovers, music lovers, book lovers, we resonate with other humans.
Oh yeah.
You know? Totally. So I think that just reframing it as that, and maybe that just needs to be the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I love it. Well, whoops, as I dropped my notebook.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Rock and roll. Exactly. Just throw it on the floor.
Yeah.
There we go.
She's pumped.
I can't thank you enough. One last question for you as I drop my stuff all over the floor. You are about to take an exciting trip overseas to the UK, where I still live. My favorite British friends. Go see her. She's amazing. Yeah. Tell us what you are most looking forward to right now. What's on the horizon for you?
I would say, that playing the Long Road Festival and being on Reese Palmer's stage at the Long Road Festival in the UK is a big thing that I'm looking forward to. I'm really grateful that she asked me to come play her stage, and I really just admire her and value her so much. I think she's such a special artist and voice of the artist community. I'm really excited to be there, and I'm really excited about the new music that I'm working on. And I'm writing a lot with Brad. I'm writing a lot with folks around town and really finding people that I really gel and vibe with. And so, like I said earlier, the discovery and the process of falling in love with songs and finding the song is one of my favorite things about life. So that's the thing I'm always looking forward to.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I said.
This has been really nice. Thanks for the thoughtful conversation.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.